All right, we're on. So, hello everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I'm coming to you from the world headquarters of Advanced Compliance Solutions, the compliance evangelist and compliance advocate for the Red Flag Group here in Houston, Texas. And I'm thrilled to announce the first episode blab session of This Week in FCPA with my good friend and colleague, Jay Rosen. Jay, tell us about Los Angeles this morning.
LA is nice and quiet. The kids are on vacation, and I am coming to you from the West Coast headquarters of Merrill Translations. And I just want to preface before anything starts between Tom and I and the fireworks, whatever views I express are the expressly views of my own Jay Rosen as a personal and have nothing to do with the Merrill Corporation or my future employers, the United Language Group.
So, and of course, I do not have to make such a disclaimer. I stand behind, my corporation stands behind everything I say, and I stand behind what my corporation may say in this podcast. So you've had some news this week, Jay, about Merrill Brink, Merrill Translations. Why don't you bring us up to speed on the corporate machinations thereof?
Sure. Thank you for asking, Tom. So exciting news that we've been able to share with our clients over the past couple of weeks. My former employer for the last 5.5 years, the Merrill Corporation, has made a strategic decision to divest themselves of its translation assets. And we've been very fortunate that the former founders of PH Brink, Greg and Jeff Brink, have made an offer to basically carve out the translations group from Merrill Corporation. And starting June 1st, we will now be a division of the United Language Group, and we will be the first platform company that the Brinks are using to build a global world-class organization. And what's exciting for me and our customers is that we will now be part of an entity that is 100% focused on translations. And those areas where we focus are helping our clients with FCPA global investigations, and more importantly, helping them from a proactive perspective, helping them communicate their codes of conduct and policies and procedures to a global audience. So we're very excited here at Merrill right now.
So what does that mean for someone that you may have serviced previously under the Merrill Brink moniker going forward, Jay?
It's absolutely business as usual. The one great thing that I've had the pleasure of dealing with for the last 5.5 years is just an amazing group of individuals who work globally from New York to London, Galway to Hong Kong. And as of June 1st, all those people just separate from Merrill and become part of the United Language Group. So there will be absolutely no interruption in service. And we're going to have more resources to become a cutting edge language solutions provider for our clients globally.
Sounds like a pretty exciting opportunity.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Well, excellent. And for those who haven't heard, I have signed on with the Red Flag Group to be their compliance advocate. So you're going to be getting a lot more of what I've been doing in the past: writing, speaking, podcasting, blogging, long form articling, white papering, and all things compliance. This is really going to help me in my self-appointed role as the compliance evangelist. So thanks to the Red Flag Group for giving me this opportunity. And I look forward to communicating with people through some of their streams as well. But
and Tom, can you, for some of the people who aren't familiar, can you let them know a little bit more about Red Flag and where you see the intersection of doing compliance and the solutions they offer?
Sure. The Red Flag Group is a product and service provider in the anti-corruption compliance space. Their main started off sort of a specialty in third parties and due diligence, and have broadened that out to really trying to bring a variety of technological solutions to the compliance conundrum, particularly in the area of transaction monitoring, training. Have some wonderful training solutions, and with their third-party management tools. So they have a services which does risk assessments and other work. One of the things that they do very, very well is they put on these very focused roundtables where they bring in 15 to 20 compliance professionals. We have a scenario we pose and we walk through that sort of a best practices manner. I'm going to be involved with that. Also, with my FCPA masterclass, I have one coming up in June, which Red Flag Group will sponsor. We're going to be doing a lot more service work directly with clients that will give me the opportunity to really kind of expand my toolbox around the nuts and bolts best practices, which I really try to emphasize going forward. So it's a great opportunity. Scott Lane and his team have put together a first-rate company, and I'm really proud to be associated with them. So it's going to be a pretty exciting opportunity for me as well.
Well, congratulations, and I look forward to finding out how we can all cooperate together within this space. You want to hit the top three, Tom?
Well, first of all, I think I went to a Social Media Marketing World 2016 conference this week, and they communicated to us that the cutting edge in social media marketing is live video. Used to be called live streaming, but that's not cool enough. So it's now live video. And so I decided that what Jay and I needed to do was start a lab session. So if you're listening to this, thanks for, we now are up to 9 attendees, Jay. So we want to do this. Well, we're going to put together for you a weekly show. It's going to be 30 minutes. We try to rigorous around the 30-minute mark, so that will give you a kind of a recap, summary, and perhaps a lighthearted way of some of the things that Jay and I think are the most important FCPA activities over the past week. So with that sort of short introduction, we will hop right into it. So we had a guilty plea this week, Jay, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to go to the glasses on this one.
Okay.
But a gentleman named Dimitri Harder, who is a Russian national, but had been living in the United States, and I believe had worked for a company in Pennsylvania. And what was interesting about this case was really a couple of things. First of all, he was alleged and now has pled guilty to bribing something called the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the EBRD. And the EBRD makes development loans, as their name might suggest. And he bribed an official to make a loan to one of his clients, actually 2 loans, for which he was paid an $8 million success fee. So this was the first time I think we'd had a FCPA enforcement action involving this non-governmental organization. So that makes it a little bit unique. Mr. Harder has not been sentenced yet, so we don't know the extent of his cooperation. The other thing to note was, and I have to go real geek out lawyer here, was the judge heavily, and I have to just emphasize, heavily chastised Mr. Harder's counsel for filing not only frivolous motions, but really beyond the pale motions. And the judge sanctioned and slapped down the lawyers so badly that it said that the motions were in bad faith and put additional restrictions on Mr. Harder's movements. That's really unusual for that sanction to be placed on a defendant for conduct of their counsel. So whatever their lawyers put in front of the judge certainly wasn't digging it. But anyway, so we had that interesting case. The second thing was I found very interesting, yet not unexpected at all, was in the FIFA corruption scandal. I think most people listening to this, and we're now up to 10, Jay, are aware of FIFA, the corruption scandal, the U.S. government bringing charges against initially 17 and then I believe 8 more FIFA officials for receipt of bribes. There were no FCPA charges because, of course, the FCPA does not criminalize the bribe receiver, only the bribe payor. But the U.S. government announced, and the Wall Street Journal reported that the DOJ is investigating a large number of U.S. companies, and including such companies as Nike, DirecTV, 21st Century Fox, KPMG, Citibank, HSBC, Standard Chartered, Credit Suisse, and UBS. I think most Nike was generally believed to have been identified by the name U.S. corporation in the original FIFA indictments, although they were not named as Nike, the company. But it's broadened out now because now we have the government looking into U.S. companies that were involved with FIFA in terms of their marketing rights, both radio, film, TV. Nike's obviously shoes and apparel. The banks, though, are being investigated on money laundering angles as well. And we now have a tangible FCPA link because at least one country, Argentina, owns or sold the television rights to its national soccer team. So clearly you have now a foreign government and FCPA application. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this may go. And I can only emphasize that after you call Jay Rosen to get your documents translated, that you do an immediate assessment of any business you have done with FIFA, with a regional soccer federation, CONMEBOL, that's the South American Soccer Federation, and CONCACAF, the North American Soccer Federation, and even the national soccer organizations. So the Brazilian national soccer team has come under scrutiny. Two of its leaders that were arrested as part of the initial FIFA indictments. But if you've done any business with any of those national soccer federations, you need to look at what you have done, particularly along the lines of third-party agents. Third-party agents are rife in the sports world generally. I think World Wide Web in basketball. But helping companies to market and sell television broadcast rights is something that's pretty well documented. And if you've done business with any of those people, you need to go back and see if they went through your due diligence process, what the contract commission rates were there's some things as success fees, which were undefined. What were the services? What did you pay for? The services were delivered. And then what's the relationship of those third-party agents to any of the representatives of those national soccer federations or regional soccer federations? But you really need to get out ahead of this now. The U.S. government has really now changed its focus. It's unclear if any of these companies are under criminal investigation, but they're certainly under scrutiny. And now that you know the Department of Justice is thinking about these issues, you need to get ahead of this if you have anything going along those lines.
So can we backtrack for a second, Tom? One of the themes that I think that's out there in global enforcement now is that there's a lot more cooperation between the U.S. and its partners globally, anti-corruption, and wondering about your thoughts on why the U.S. government was really the first people in to bring these charges against FIFA, and was it because of the nexus of cash flowing through the U.S., or was it more in line with the global cooperation about people working together and sharing information?
I think it was a couple of factors, Jay. The initial case seemed to revolve around a former FIFA official named Chuck Blazer, who is a U.S. citizen domiciled in the United States, and has admitted to receiving huge amounts of bribes to direct broadcast rights, FIFA, CONCACAF, and other broadcast rights. But they got him as the feds got Al Capone for tax evasion, because he wasn't reporting these bribes as cash or as income and paying taxes on them. So they got him through kind of the back door of tax evasion. And then he was able to tell them about the really all-encompassing, overarching scandal involving FIFA. They convinced him, or he was convinced, to cooperate with the Department of Justice by wearing a wiretap to meetings and providing documentation. So he was, I guess he still is, a cooperating witness. He's still alive, although apparently in very poor health. So it started with a U.S. citizen domiciled in the U.S. Running money through U.S. banks involving U.S. tax evasion. So you had clear U.S. jurisdiction. And whether they stumbled upon this larger case or they knew about it or had wind of it, they certainly used Blazer as a way to kind of pry it open. And then I guess the other thing that I would say is that only the U.S. government could really bring this case. Swiss weren't going to bring it. The British knew about it for years because the Sunday Times of London wrote about it in a series of exposés in 2010. and turned over all their documentation to the Serious Fraud Office. Now, whether that's because those countries are FIFA domicile in Switzerland, other countries didn't want to rock the boat around the world's largest sporting franchise.
Beautiful game.
The beautiful game, obviously here in the United States, not ranked as high. So maybe that has something to do with it. But probably because it started with Blazer, and maybe because politically here, FIFA doesn't have the weight that it has in other countries.
Great. So I'd like to kind of spin the axis a little bit more. We want to be cognizant of everyone's time, and we've got about 15 minutes left. A couple of the things that we'd like to talk about going forward. We'd like to briefly address the fact that it's the 4-year anniversary of the Walmart matter being made on the front page of the New York Times. And again, as Tom just said, sometimes these investigations are brewing and they're known about for a while. And I guess the question is what's really changed in 4 years now in terms of the FCPA landscape? And is the government taking a more serious look at global corporations? And what do we learn so far? What do we know now 4 years later that we didn't know before?
Well, I think we clearly see greater global cooperation. The numbers, the dollars that Walmart has spent to become truly a world-class compliance organization are just either breathtaking, mind-numbing, or sort of like me standing next to a 747 on its tail. You just have no basis to compare it to, but it's, I think, north of $650 million. Where this investigation may end in terms of criminal sanctions against individuals or the company, it's unclear at this point. The driving point, I guess, right now is the money Walmart has spent has just been astronomical. Whether that it will be very interesting to see whether that helps them, buys them a reduction in a fine and penalty, where this all may go going forward. But it's certainly an anniversary worth noting. I'm glad you brought it up. It really has changed the compliance landscape because Walmart has been very public about the steps they have taken to bring their compliance policy into the 21st century and to really become a global leader in compliance. And they've talked about it. They've written about it. They've put out information about their specific policy. Their compliance professionals have been very open and willing at conferences to share about what they've been doing. And they've also created a chief ethics officer, which I find very interesting as well. So, kudos to Walmart, but it's a very significant anniversary this week. And we got to give kudos to the New York Times for breaking the story. So I think maybe at some point we can explore the realm of the fourth estate and compliance enforcement and betterment going forward. But it's certainly an anniversary worth noting.
Now, with that greater transparency, do you think there's been do you think that necessitated the move on the DOJ's part to actually bring on a full-time in-house compliance consultant to try to help really put out some bright lines there on what other companies need to do to have a world-class and effective compliance program?
I wouldn't have tied it to Walmart, but maybe more to Andrew Weissman coming on board. I think when he was in private practice, that was one of the key themes he emphasized. Although he had some other foci as well. Nevertheless, the bringing on board of the Compliance Council sort of ties in with the Yates memo, ties in with this new pilot program to really give, I think, companies an opportunity to engage in specific steps which can reduce your fine and penalty if you find yourself on the wrong end of an FCPA violation. It also gives the DOJ, I think, a better opportunity to understand really what are best practices and what is effective within a specific corporation, because that's really the role of Wei Chin, the new compliance counsel. She's going to assess compliance inside of a corporation, but on a corporation by corporation basis. And I've talked to a couple of lawyers who have gone through the process since she's come on board. And they said they really noted a change in how much she has been able to focus on what they have done and what the facts and circumstances around their company is or are going forward. So, of course, we'll have to see how it all plays out going forward. It may take a year, which is the length of the new pilot program. but it's got a lot of significance for the compliance practitioner.
So two quick things just for us to think out there in the audience, and we probably won't get to it right now, but there's been some talk out in the press that maybe they want to actually grandfather this period because there really wasn't a lot happening from an FCPA enforcement perspective last year by both DOJ and SEC. So one thought might be current companies and corporations that are being investigated, maybe they can also ride along on this program and see if they can get credit from it. And the other question is, do we think Wei Chin is now encouraging open dialogue with the business community, or is there still a little bit of, if you go in to talk to the DOJ about best practices with your compliance program, are you putting yourself in their crosshairs? Because there's that still thing about, certain professionals say, well, I don't know how much cooperation credit I'm really going to get. So is there going to be an open door policy here, or is it you're only getting called in front of the principal when you've done something wrong?
Or is it just someone who's been a Boston Red Sox and New England Patriot fan all his life and sees conspiracies everywhere, even when they don't exist? And, everybody can have a bad century, but hey, what the heck? Just because we won 5 doesn't mean people still aren't out to get us. So kudos to seeing the conspiracies everywhere. Or is this really your kudos to the recent 6-part X-Files series?
I don't know, but can we talk about the how open door is that policy about, trying to get some more specificity on, you've been talking about ethics and compliance and the best practices. We've gone from talking about, what did you know, who did it, and what did you do to take care of it? Right now we've got different things. We've got the Hayes memo. We've got, the Yates memo. Is FCPA enforcement changing, or has it always been the same, but now it's getting a little bit more ingrained in people's business ideas that, there's no longer the ostrich defense. You can't bury your head in the sand, but it's out there. It's going to affect you if you do business globally, and you have to be smart about this and start taking steps to properly inoculate yourself and your workforce.
I would agree with all of that, Jay, but maybe take it a step further. That I see the Wei Chin role is, and particularly the details set out in the pilot program is bringing rigor around a process that DOJ may have been doing on an ad hoc or lawyer by lawyer basis. And to put some written parameters around what they're thinking, what they're looking for, so that companies can maybe do their own gap analysis or risk assessment to see if they are following through or putting the kinds of strictures in place that DOJ is talking about. As to the ability to comment or make suggestions, I think we saw in the Harvard Business Law Review a lengthy article, and I forget the name of the CCO who penned that piece, raising questions with the DOJ, lots of questions about benchmarking. How do we benchmark our compliance program? So I think there is I don't know if you'd call it informal or formal. We're up to 13 viewers. Dialogue of with companies in the Department of Justice. And I think the thought is that Wei Chin will work with the compliance community and the business community to see if we can put some additional rigor around that.
Great.
So Jay, I see we've got about 4 minutes, so I think I've talked most of the time. Why don't you kind of close us out with some of your final thoughts on our initial episode or initial blab session of This Week in FCPA?
So first, a commercial. In the future, going forward, this blab session will start at 9 a.m. Central Time, and it will be at 7 a.m. Rosen, let's get ready to go to second grade time here on the West Coast. So we're looking forward to you getting your coffee, joining us to talk about what is on our minds. I think what I'd like us to look at for the rest of the year and This Week in the FCPA is to see if we are at a real game-changing moment here. There's been so much that has happened in Q1, not only from a settlement perspective, but also just there seems to be so much opportunities for teaching lessons in the world. VW just settled a big portion of their EPA thing, and there's still, everything open from the shareholder suits against them. So when you look in the world, and every time you turn the page, it's FIFA, it's the Brazilian government getting impeached, it's VW. It seems more and more that we are getting into a highly regulated situation, that now are all car companies guilty because of what VW did. So my question for us to look at as we move throughout 2016 is to see, was last year a lull from FCPA enforcement? And then are more things happening this year? And is it even more than just about FCPA, but it's about people taking the power into our hands and helping to really put an eye on those large corporations and saying, when are you going to start walking the walk? Because, you've talked the talk, but you keep getting debarred and you keep ending up in front of the government, which is where you do not want to be.
Yeah, I would say that's an excellent place for us to end. So, Jay, thanks very much. Thanks for the shout out and commercial, and we will look forward to visiting with everyone and perhaps some new friends next Friday. I guess that would be the 29th at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific time.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. And to those of you who are celebrating the first night of Passover tonight, wishing you a great Seder. And the one last little bit that I've worked out, Tom, that I wanted to put in, I don't know if you've ever been to a Passover Seder before, but one of the things that they say in the Seder is that every person who participates should look at themselves as having gone out of Egypt on a personal journey and gone from servitude to freedom. And my hope for this year and this spring is that there will be different people who will actually go across the world from some type of servitude or some type of economic injustice and be able to see more freedom and more liberty and more life-changing things for them in the coming year.
Jay, it's a great way to end this. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.